The 4th season of Miraculous Ladybug has come to an end, and we're all wondering when season 5 will premiere, especially after that cliffhanger of this season left us on. So what better way to end this season with character analysis videos? Lila Rossi is definitely interesting for both good and bad reasons. Having been introduced at the end of the 1st season and making very little appearances as the series progressed, it was hinted in season 3 that the writers were setting her up to be the main antagonist by the end of the 1st narrative arc, which is season 5. However, after only making 2 cameos this season, fans, including myself, are not so sure if this is the wisest decision, given her lack of screen time despite the fact she's been heavily hinted to have a huge role later on in the series. Compared to Felix, Gabriel, and even Chloe, Lila is a two-dimensional character and so would not make a strong villain. But what makes her a viable candidate for a compelling antagonist? And most importantly, what's the complexity of Lila's character? Stick around to find out in this video brought to you by the one and only your girl, the Cartoon Hotspot, where we'll be analysing the wasted potential of Lila Rossi and where it all went wrong. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and for returning subscribers, welcome back. As always, be sure to give this video a like and turn on that bell button for post notifications. Without further ado, let's begin. Lila Rossi is an Italian student who attends François Dupont High School and is in Miss Boussier's class along with Marinette. She makes her first appearance in Volpina, and after being exposed for her lies by Ladybug, she develops a burning hatred towards her, even going as far as making a deal with the enemy, Gabriel Agreste, and willingly getting akumatized. Her lies often cause trouble for Ladybug and Cat Noir. In the 3rd season, Lila returns as a full-time student and forms a rivalry with Marinette, whom she doesn't know is her sworn enemy Ladybug, after giving her a chance to join her, to which Marinette rejects. In the episode Ladybug, Lila upholds her promise and successfully gets Marinette expelled from school and almost akumatized by Hawkmoth, though thanks to a little bit of luck and a little Agreste power, Marinette is able to return to school. But since then, Lila has just sort of disappeared. To understand why Lila Rossi plays an important role in this series, we first need to establish what makes a great antagonist. Antagonists directly oppose the protagonist. An antagonist is the obstacle that creates conflict in the protagonist's external and internal arc. Marinette's external goal is to defeat Hawkmoth and regain the Butterfly Miraculous so it can no longer be misused. Her internal goal is to take risks, be the best version of herself with or without the mask, and to learn how to believe in herself because, as Lila rightfully said,
a girl doesn't need to wear a costume to be amazing, you know.
Which is like the only time she was telling the truth throughout the entirety of the series. But regardless, she was right. Marinette doesn't give herself enough credit. Like the audience, Marinette thinks she's amazing because she's Ladybug, but it's actually the other way around. Ladybug is amazing because she's Marinette. But that's beside the point. Internal and external journey. An antagonist thwarts the protagonist's efforts in achieving their external goal, which affects their internal journey. An antagonist challenges the protagonist, physically and emotionally. Marinette is afraid of being alone, because in the years before becoming Ladybug, nobody defended her from Chloe's bullying. She suffered from low self-esteem, but worse, she suffered from it alone. Marinette's journey is about finding herself again, and she's doing that right now by becoming class representative, earning respect from her peers by standing up for them, aspiring to become a fashion designer, winning the fashion contest, designing the cover of Jagged Stone album, and so much more. Marinette now has friends, and she's no longer the shy, closed-off Marinette she was prior to the Origins episode. She's no longer alone. Being Ladybug has helped her become a better Marinette. It's important to know what our protagonist's arc is because it relates to the function and role of our antagonist. Where Lila comes into play is that she's a walking reminder of how alone Marinette was before becoming Ladybug. Lila is manipulative and scheming, and as she said,
I only tell people what they want to hear.
She uses that ability to turn Marinette's friends against her. Not a single person believed Marinette, meaning not a single one of them defended her in the episode Ladybug, except for Adrian and Alia. Because nobody defended her, this brought back painful memories of the times nobody stuck up for Marinette back when Chloe used to bully her. Lila brings out Marinette's root of low self-esteem. A story that cruises from beginning to end without an obstacle isn't a very believable tale, and not a very enjoyable one. To break it down, Ladybug has to defeat Hawkmoth. Simple. An external obstacle in her journey is that she doesn't know who he is, and so she can only react when he creates akumatized villains. But that's boring, and quite frankly, that's not why we're still watching the show. We continue to follow this series because Marinette has an internal journey. Her obstacles are deeply rooted in her own internal flaws, but her obstacles are also Lila, Felix, Chloe, and in some ways, Adrien/Cat Noir. These other characters force her to encounter her internal flaws. One of Marinette's flaws is her low self-esteem, which is a result from being bullied for so long. By facing Chloe, her obstacle, and standing up for herself, she overcomes those obstacles, and sometimes she might not. Another one of her flaws is her fear of rejection, which stems from her intense crush on Adrien. Not that he's to blame. Note that antagonists aren't necessarily villains. Marinette is her own antagonist, but she's not a villain. So before angry Adrien stans come along, I'm not saying Adrien is a villain. In fact, villain falls under the umbrella term antagonist. And another flaw is Marinette's desire for control. Felix, an obstacle, challenges her ability to establish control, and so does Hawkmoth. This is what keeps us watching. An external journey/arc is great for plot purposes, but people fall in love with the characters because we want to see how they go about overcoming these obstacles and internal flaws. With all that being said, why Lila is a good antagonist is because she challenges Marinette in a way that Chloe and Hawkmoth do not. Lila forces Marinette to see a part of herself she doesn't want to remember. Imagine taking years to earn the respect and support of your classmates, only for a random newbie to come around and earn that in a matter of hours. We need to look at Lila and Marinette's rivalry with a bit of nuance. It goes beyond them competing for Adrien's affection. When Lila manipulated the whole class, it was to show how much power she had over Marinette. It's like, haha, you've been friends with these people for years, and it only took one day for me to change that and get them on my side. There's another aspect as to why Lila and Marinette's rivalry is so compelling, and honestly why I enjoy their screen time much more than Chloe and Marinette. The difference is, Chloe actively tries to get a reaction out of Marinette and goes through ridiculous lengths to get it, to the point it's generally embarrassing, especially in season 4, because it just seems like Marinette doesn't care anymore to give her the time of the day. Lila is calculated and calm, and that's way more intimidating. We saw in season 3 that Lila had been carefully and patiently waiting for the right time to execute her plan in getting Marinette expelled. We all know Marinette hates liars, but have we ever considered why? Other than the fact that lying is, well, bad. Marinette constantly has to lie in order to protect her secret identity, to protect Cat Noir, and to protect her loved ones around her. And by constantly lying, she pushes away the people closest to her because it's part of what she has to do. She has no choice.
You're right, I keep secrets, I lie all the time. I lie to my friends, to my parents, to everyone. And the worst thing is I can't do it any other way.
But she wouldn't have to do that if she wasn't Ladybug. Like I said, it comes with the job. Yes, Marinette has stated Ladybug has made her a better Marinette, but there's still some part of her that resents her superhero duties, that wants to be free from it and everything being a superhero comes with, including lying to everyone. Part of her just wants to be a normal girl, so she wouldn't have to keep pushing people away by lying to them. And so she hates the fact that Lila just lies with every breath she has. Lila lies as if it's second nature, and it is. She lies like it's nothing, and nobody knows why. So I actually look at the very first confrontation that Lila and Marinette had in a different way. Sure, it was probably because Ladybug felt threatened by Lila being so close to Adrien. But don't you think it's really weird for a random girl to just come along and say she's friends with a superhero? Ladybug couldn't understand why Lila was using Ladybug's name as a means of gaining popularity. Think of it like this. Imagine you're popular in high school and someone you rarely speak to, let alone someone you've never met, starts randomly making rumors about you and claiming you're friends with them when you're not. I would definitely be annoyed, because why would you use me to gain some sort of acceptance and popularity? I'm not a prize to be won. The same principle applies to Ladybug and Lila's situation in the episode Volpina. Regardless of how you feel about the handling of the situation on Ladybug's part, you can't blame her. Superhero or not, Lila was really weird for that. I'm just gonna straight up say it, and I really think we should stop barraging Ladybug for handling it in a way I know majority of us would have done, if not worse. Also, the lies Lila told to impress Adrien were not white lies. They weren't harmless, in fact they were harmful. A superhero is still a person, a civilian behind the mask who doesn't have powers to protect them. So for Lila to just openly spread lies about her friendship with Ladybug is really reckless and would have potentially put her and Ladybug in a dangerous situation if Hawkmoth were to have ever believed her lies. And yes, Ladybug humiliating Lila was wrong, but there's no way you can tell me Ladybug is the reason for why Lila continues to lie, because we know that's not the case. Lila has probably been lying long before she was first introduced in season 1, so don't blame Ladybug, hold Lila accountable for her own actions. Also, have we ever considered that Ladybug has helped Marinette grow so much in confidence and self-esteem, and for someone to just come around and use her name to impress Adrian, it kind of feels insulting and like the cheap way out. It's like, if I worked hard to become an actress or something and nobody believed me or my talents, and I really had to grow in confidence, but finally scored the leading role in a movie. If a random person came along claiming to have known me all this time, I'd be upset because where were you before I became successful? Where were you when I wasn't the best version of myself? We need to start looking at these situations in a different perspective and see how they translate to our everyday life, even if it is a cartoon. Everything I just said about the true core of Lila and Marinette's rivalry all comes down to resentment. Resentment towards each other, but more importantly, resentment towards themselves. Marinette resents being Ladybug, not all the time, but definitely occasionally, because she has to lie, and therefore she resents Lila because Lila thinks lying isn't harmful and it's just a game. But to Marinette, lying isn't a game, especially when it entails having to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders at such a young age. So why does Lila lie? It's hinted that Lila's parents are never around and that they're too busy for her. And so we can only assume, based on the little information we've acquired, that Lila tries to fill that empty void and gain attention from other people that her parents don't give her. In her mind, she's probably thinking, there's something uninteresting about me because my parents don't even care to give me the time of the day. And it's not a far-fetched theory that Lila's parents probably don't even know that much about their daughter, like her interests, hobbies, aspirations, literally anything. So Lila's coping mechanism is to be another person, anybody else other than herself, by telling lies, because if her parents don't care enough and aren't in the slightest bit interested in trying to get to know their own daughter, why would anyone else be? So instead, Lila makes up lies that she ends up believing.
You! Stop thinking your illusions are reality!
So people will be interested in her. But as Ladybug said,
You don't have to lie and pretend to be something you're not. People will like you just for being yourself.
of course, this is all a theory because unfortunately, Lila doesn't have enough screen time for us to make concrete conclusions. I find Lila's arc incomplete. In fact, it's barely even started. It has great potential that's possibly been wasted. Lila has that bitterness inside of her that makes her a compelling and potentially ruthless person. Even after being offered the chance to restart and be honest with herself and the people around her, she refused it. Let's be real, Lila and Marinette would make good friends because Marinette is so caring and would give Lila her undivided attention, provided she's not distracted by superhero matters. If Lila is upset, Marinette would listen. Lila is smart and resourceful. Add that to Marinette's creativity and we have a duo. Back to my point though. Lila is a bitter person and I can understand why. How cool would it have been if her bitterness is what leads her to make more dangerous choices? It could be her spiraling descent into villainy. And think about it. The Butterfly Miraculous grants the power of transmission, and Hawkmoth is able to hear and feel every emotion. Thus, he easily manipulates people by feeding on their negative emotion and akumatizes them. Suppose Lila was Hawkmoth. She'll also be able to hear negative emotions, powerful emotions like neglect. She never got to be heard, nor was she given the attention every kid needs, so of course she'd want other people to be heard by akumatizing them. The difference between her and Gabriel is that Gabriel just akumatizes people in hope of getting the miraculous. He doesn't actually care about these people, which makes him heartless. But a compelling villain isn't two-dimensional. A compelling villain isn't terrible for the sake of being terrible. A compelling villain has layers and traits that make us feel and sympathize with them. Right now, we don't sympathize with Gabriel. I used to in season 2, but not anymore. Lila as Hawkmoth, given all the reasons I stated why she'd be a good Hawkmoth, I can actually see myself finding her likable in some aspects. There's still a possibility for Lila's character to be properly fleshed, though I don't see it happening. Season 5 is the end of the first narrative arc, with season 6 and 7 being titled New Beginnings. I'm assuming that means by the next season, Hawkmoth would have been defeated and somebody else would take over the role of the main villain. But I just don't see it to be Lila, because if she was, then 2 seasons for me isn't enough for her to make a solid impact as a villain, and 2 seasons is a bit quick for her to be defeated by the heroes. Also, I don't see season 5 giving focus to Lila. It'd feel out of place, especially since our attention is on the reveal, the Egress backstory, and Ladybug and Cat Noir figuring out a way to defeat Hawkmoth. Squeezing Lila into it seems forced and might possibly take away valuable screen time from more important storylines and areas of focus. Therefore, Lila Rossi is wasted potential, which is kinda sad. Of course, this is just my opinion, but now I want to put it to you guys. What do you think about Lila? Is there a chance she might still be the main villain? What are your thoughts on the complexity of her character? Felt like I've left something out in this video that you're just itching to talk about? Well, let me know down in the comments below. As for today, that's it from me, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!